Josh, thank
Oh,
you so much for chatting with me. I really do appreciate
sorry,
it.
I'm just gonna. Okay.
Oh, there you are.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Oh, honestly, it's my
I
pleasure. The film
appreciate.
is so much fun. It's absolute blast. What was it
It is.
excited you to be
Yeah.
a part of it?
I was super stoked to get the audition. I actually auditioned for two roles, one of which I ended up getting a slightly more off-kilter guy, and then one of the other villains who is, without giving too much away, less uh, insane, I guess. But yeah, I got to do both those tapes, and this was kind of mid lockdown, at least where I was in Nova Scotia. So I kind of did it in my own, and I have a cottage in the woods, and then a friend of mine zoomed in to help me read, and then yeah, that next month flew to Sault Ste. Marie, and then had an amazing time making it, just a blast. Too much fun, probably.
You know, it honestly, it I can tell. You can always tell when a cast is having fun. And this is one of those
We
films.
were.
Sorry, I didn't hear
He
you.
said we were having a blast.
And where did you say you shot in Sault Ste. Marie? Is that where it was?
Sault Ste. Marie, yeah. So we were there for the month of July, basically off and on of 2021, which feels, such so wild now that it was 2 years ago. But yeah, and we did bond really well and really quickly. All of us, cast and crew, like it was just an amazing group of people that Jason and John and Egidio and Jen and Rosalie put together, and we had an illegal amount of fun in Sault Ste. Marie. Just I think for a lot of us too, it was that sense of the pandemic was ongoing, but certainly in Sault Ste. Marie, like at that time, we were still, people were counting cases and stuff, and Sault Ste. Marie was a relatively safe spot, and so we did feel like we had a lot more just freedom to kind of do things and live a little that we'd been missing for a while. So it was really beautiful time.
Well, and much of the film, of course, is isolated in this certain area. So
Yeah.
I imagine that was probably helpful as well to during the height of the pandemic to be shooting in that location.
Yes, yeah, we got to spend most of our days in a pretty beautiful forest that doesn't take too much time to get to from downtown Sault Ste. Marie. So you kind of just are able to take a little take the car out of town, and there you are, and it's amazing. We're surrounded by this location, and there was, we were sharing space with the bugs and but also the beauty of it. It was just an amazing spot to make a movie.
Yeah, I imagine. One of the things that I mean, it's great to chat with you because I was looking through your IMDb and I'm like, my gosh, this guy's been in everything. Uh,
A couple of things, it keeps me off the streets, that's for sure.
one or two projects.
One or two, yeah.
I was wondering what it is particularly about this type of genre that you keep
Mm.
coming back to that type of story.
I think people, first of all, I love playing interesting characters, and usually those interesting characters sometimes end up being kind of the antagonists of a story or one of the antagonists. So I never shy away from that. I think the characters sometimes are a little, yeah, more interesting than if I were to be playing the good guys sometimes. So I certainly don't mind playing these kind of roles, and yeah, and I feel like just by the nature of what we get to do in Canada, there are films that are kind of uh, these films are made often. I feel like in Canada, not specifically with Cascade, but just this idea of a nice isolated story with not a huge cast, but just a really tight script. And Canadian film is perfect for that kind of genre, right? So being able to, yeah, as you say, go into a forest and work with some good people, and I always say yes to those kind of projects because it's fun. It's fun to dive into a world, and I love watching thrillers. So being in one is always a treat.
Yeah, it like I said, well, we've already said how much it just it's such a fun ride and to see you a part of it. One of the things I thought was interesting about this one in particular, I mean, your character, without giving anything away, is pretty bad. It's
Yeah,
pretty,
He's
pretty villainous character from
yeah,
start to finish.
yeah,
But the main characters, the youth especially, um, are shown as young and innocent and good, but they we really see them in a situation where they have the opportunity to make some pretty bad choices.
yeah.
And it you see some of them do, some of them don't.
Hmm.
And I was wondering from your perspective, and again, like that being in thrillers as well, do you think we're all sort of battling our an inner darkness? Like, what does it take to defeat that?
That's a great question. Yeah, I think one of the strengths of this script and this film is it doesn't kind of gloss over things, and also doesn't kind of make it easy for our protagonists either. It kind of gives them challenges to overcome, and that's, I think, yeah, really great part of the strength of this movie. But yeah, I think in everybody as human beings, I think we all, there's temptation. Obviously, there's a certain financial, I guess, temptation that exists in this movie for our protagonists, and yeah, I feel like there is just a moral compass that I think, whether through education or through parenting or through life experience, that some folks, have a really strong moral compass that, can't be bent. And then for some folks, through usually no fault of their own, that those temptations are a little more attractive. And so I think, yeah, it's interesting to explore that in a film that could easily be kind of a, without the nuance that this script has and these performances and this direction has. Gidio's amazing at this. Yeah, the film doesn't have to rise and elevate itself to what it does, but it really does, and that's, I think, to the strength of a lot of talented people behind the camera. And yeah, it was a pleasure to be a part of a film that doesn't pull its punches, and it doesn't take the easy way out in a lot of different script questions, but also action and stuff like that. It really throws you right into it, and that was a really cool part of making it, for sure.
It's interesting you say it doesn't pull its punches because I think that's a great way to describe it. Like, in some ways, these progressions for its characters feel very natural.
Yeah,
There's not a perfectly good character that always is going to do the right
yeah.
thing because everybody gets
No
their
knight in
hands dirty
shining
every
armor,
day. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
nobody's great.
Yeah, yeah, which is great, except for my character Cutter. He wouldn't hurt a fly. Yeah, not quite, not quite. But yeah, there's definitely, that's, yeah, again, the strength of the characters and strength of the script, and then we have some amazing performers. Like I've become great friends with a couple of the folks in the movie, and a few folks behind the scenes too, and that's, I think, as well as another thing that can only happen when you're all sent to a small town in Ontario and said, "Hey, we're going to make a movie together," right? It's kind of like summer camp, and yeah, seeing everyone's work on screen versus the amazing people they are off screen is also pretty special.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of even in a film like this, relationships between actors
Hmm.
is important. Is just as
Yes.
important, and you could see that people are connecting very well on screen.
Yeah, we had it. I mean, and that comes from the top. It comes from Egidio and Jen and Rosalie, who are just really, yeah, they're just fantastic at kind of letting actors play, and giving us the freedom and the time as well, because a lot of times in film, especially film with not $150 million budget, there isn't as much time to kind of explore and play. But Egidio, he's a rock star, right? He's got this kind of musical sensibility to him, and so he does look for the rhythm and look for the kind of the melody in a scene, and that gives us as performers, just, yeah, it's amazing. We get to just, it's like a sandbox for us. We had a blast on and off screen, that's for sure.
Well, I mean, the script is absolutely tight, but the way you describe it there, I'm wondering, was there room to ad lib, or did you guys pretty much stick to what was on the paper?
That's a great question. I was lucky that I, unfortunately, this is something I do, whether it's welcomed or not sometimes, but I love paraphrasing, unfortunately, in certain not certain literally every script I've ever done, I'm always like trying to be more word perfect. But this script, certainly there were opportunities and a lot of freedom from Egidio. For me specifically, I was able to kind of, yeah, play around with the words and kind of send things back to someone if I wanted to hear them say it again or something like that. And it really kept everyone on their toes. I feel like kept me on my toes for sure, but it was also a beautiful, beautiful way to work in which you trust the people behind the camera. You also trust your own understanding of the character, and you trust the people around you to be able to kind of, keep it alive, right? And keep the it kind of crackling, which was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, one of the things I love about this film is so interesting with the youth specifically.
Hmm.
There's sort of this sense that they're invincible at the start of the film, and that
Yeah.
slowly gets peeled away
Yeah.
over the course of the story. So I was just wondering, for you, if you could speak to just starting out in your career,
Mm,
Josh, what would you say to yourself?
great question. I teach kids musical theater, and this is a question I ask them a lot. I'm like, look back at yourself 5 years ago. What would you say to yourself? Or what would you say to yourself right now? It's a great question. I wish I had a really great answer for you myself. But I think if I were to look back at when I was starting out, just as a young actor, I think um, the biggest takeaway would be to not stress about it too much, because there's such a volume of work that gets made in Canada and Hollywood and everywhere. And you're not going to be a part of everything. You're not going to be even, you're not going to know of 75% of the stuff that happens. So don't worry about it. And this is the biggest thing I say to all my students is find something else, many other things ideally that you love to do just as much as being an actor. Get really good at those things, whether they're hobbies like sports or board games or anything. Like, just find the other things that you love, and and put a lot of energy into those things too, because the more you are able to be a complete as a human being, the better your work is going to be, because you can't really play other people until you know who you are yourself first. And so I always would tell myself that, and I certainly tell my students that. It's just, you know, find out who you are, and then take you into a room, and then see what happens.
Hang on, I don't think I've ever heard anybody put it that way before. I love that. That's phenomenal.
I'm
Um,
gonna take my own advice sometimes, but yeah, that's what I try to tell myself.
well, having said that, Josh, I gotta know if you're one of the four that
Yeah,
stumbled across the airplane, what would you
yeah,
do?
it's a great question. I've been raised very well. My parents are very good people, and I've got amazing people around me, and so I think I'd be the boring option. And I think I would be like, you know what? We've got some stuff here that we found without giving too much away. I think we should do the responsible thing. And, and I'd probably, one of the first things I would probably have is to get the what out of there too, because I feel like whenever something like that's happening, good things are not, or bad things are not too far behind, I think. So I'd be like, let's get the H off this island. Yeah, that's my boring answer for you. But if I was my character, well, you know what he would do, obviously.
Yeah, well, that's fair. You know what? In a situation like that, without saying too much,
Yeah,
the boring answer is not bad.
yeah,
I'm more
yeah.
than okay with the
What
boring.
would you do? Would you have would you be tempted?
Uh, I don't think I'd be tempted with that per
Yes,
se,
for sure, for sure.
but under slightly different circumstances,
Yeah,
I might stand there a little longer and say,
yeah, yeah. Hmm.
no, no, I gotta go.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd say
There's
I'd
always
go.
going to be a moment. That's for sure.
Yeah, and it also depends who you're with. Like, I feel
Yes,
like if there were
yes,
others that are pushing harder, that I'd be the
yes.
one saying, "No, guys, let's think about
Yeah, yeah.
this."
Let's take a second. Yeah, if you get a bunch of enablers around you, then who knows? Who knows what we do? That's the thing.
That's right. That's right.
It's a great
Uh,
question.
Josh, honestly, the film's a blast. I wish you the best. I know it's on VOD today. I think
Yes, yes, on
today.
digital and video on demand as we speak. Yeah.
Yeah. What I just as we wrap up here, I'm just wondering what you hope people take away from Cascade.
I hope they, first of all, get to watch some really amazing performances from four young actors who are, just fantastic, and also a really great voice on the scene in Egidio. Like he's such an artist as well as a technical wizard with all this kind of stuff. And yeah, I really hope they can enjoy some Canadian film that is just really entertaining. And that's kind of the stuff that I really wish we do. I wish we did a lot more in Canadian film. It's just like, yeah, let's just make some movies that entertain. And I got to tell you, some of the most amazing stuff I've seen lately has been Canadian film. Like Brother was a film I saw last year. It's one of my favorite films of all time, and just we really have some amazing talent behind and in front of the camera, and I'm so stoked for people to watch it and be entertained.
And the industry continues to grow. There's a ton of
It
great
really
stuff
does.
out there. So
Yeah.
honestly, Josh, thanks so much. Film's a joy. I really appreciate the chance to chat with you, and
Dude,
I
thanks for
wish you
having
the
me.
best.
It's great to chat.
Anytime. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Thanks.